I'd like to thank each and every one of you for coming to my event for the Brodeur family. Certainly appreciate each and every one of you. And I, since putting up the post, I've had friends and family ask me why I chose to only tell the story of Stacie and why I didn't tell them my story as well. And quite honestly, my response at first was it was hard enough to tell Stacie's story. um, but in fairness, I decided to go ahead and tell my story as well. And I elected to do so in a video, save you some reading. So anyway, for a lot of you, you probably don't know that in October 27th of this year, a couple months after Stacie got out of the hospital, I myself decided that I was going to crack and basically had what they thought was a stroke. I was having a pretty off day, and when I went to go pick up Stacie from work, we were driving home, and I had a sharp pain and a pop in the back of my head. And by the time I got home, it was getting interesting to work the clutch on my left hand side, and my whole left hand arm and hands and so were numb. And Stacie asked if I had wanted to go in, and I said no, let me just go lay down and relax for a little bit and see what happens. And so I did, and a couple hours later I got up and was just very quiet, didn't really talk much. And after about 3 or 4 hours, about 3 hours later, I finally said, yeah, it's time to go in. By the time I got to the hospital, I was basically unresponsive, and they had to put me into a wheelchair to get me where I needed to go. I was conscious, but couldn't really answer them back at all. I could hear what they were saying, but wasn't really there at the moment. Yeah. By the time they got me into the emergency room, I had no feeling on the left-hand side of my body from my legs all the way to the side of my head. They ran many tests on me, and about 3 days later had determined I had suffered what's called a complicated migraine. Basically, a complicated migraine will paralyze or numb the entire left-hand side of your body and will cause weakness on the left-hand side of your body. From what they were telling me after many minutes of consultation, of telling me what I'm not supposed to do anymore, like suddenly bend over, let my heart rate get too high. Finally asked the doctor, what can I do? And what do you suggest? I'm out of options. Everything that you just told me not to do is what I'm qualified to do. What do you suggest? And the funny thing is the doctor looked at Stacie and I and said, well, you should become a writer. And Stacie openly laughed because the doctor had no idea that that's what she's been wanting me to do for quite some time, as well as friends and family. So as much a frustration it was to hear that I'll probably never be able to do anything or work the way I knew work to be. And in order to do something that is other than, I would have to undergo some sort of training or education of some sort that would qualify me to actually do that. So I again got frustrated and didn't really accept things for what it was. But the changing point for me was when I finally realized that I don't have a right to be angry. He not only, Lord not only saved my life from spinal meningitis in 2004 and an 11-day coma, he spared my life on that day as well. You see, before that, I was ready to give up. I was tired of going through pain every day. I was tired of inflicting pain on other people because I was in pain, causing hardship for them because I was unable to provide for my family at that point, and the frustration level just got to me. And when Stacie had her incident, it just felt like the weight of the world fell back on my shoulders and I wasn't able to carry it. And my greatest point, my greatest prayer, was end my suffering. And when they were getting ready to admit me from the hospital, I had a moment where, let's say a moment of clarity, where the incident of Stacie returned back to the forefront of my mind. And I remember standing over her as Sierra was performing CPR when she took over for me. And I'm yelling at her to fight, to just hold on. And as she's laying there, turning blue because her heart's not beating and isn't getting any oxygen, her brain was still with us, and she was still fighting. And to know that my heart's still beating, I'm still breathing, and I'm waking up every day, what right do I have to give up when I was asking her to fight? And after diagnosing me with the complicated headaches and putting the fear of God in me that if I lit another cigarette it would probably kill me, it put a new perspective on things. And instead of focusing on what I can't do anymore, I'm trying really hard to focus on what I can. And that's why we've turned to you. See, I've realized that I'm not strong enough to carry the weight of the world. And not qualified either. But what I can do is take care of myself, listen, be there for my daughter and Stacie, to be a loving father, and to just be here for them. It's the greatest thing I can do for them. And to focus each day on just making myself better in order to be a better person for them. So, that's my story. In my darkest hour, watching her lay there, the greatest thing I could have done was acknowledge that there was no more I could do. I needed to consult somebody with more power and authority than I had, and put it in their hands and in his hands. And it's because of that that she's here. And if she wouldn't have been here, I don't know how much longer I would have been either. Because it was at that moment that I realized how much I needed her, how much I respected her, and how much it would hurt us to not have her in our lives. And I was expecting them to do that. So now here I am. I'm alive. I'm doing everything I can to quit smoking. It's not easy. But I'm still fighting. I love my family. And that day made me realize that I'd be lost without them, as I'm sure they would be lost without me. And so I don't know what else to do other than to ask for help so that I can be the person that they need me to be. I don't really know of any other option. And have never been one to even admit defeat, let alone, place my burdens on someone else. I know that decisions in my life has led to the position I'm in, and I accept that as the past. And all I can do is put it in the Lord's hands and our friends and family and say, I'm sorry. I can't do this alone. That's why I did this website. So in all fairness, that's my story.